Hello, YouTube friends. Jamie Hepworth here. Today I read a sweet little book with my kids, and because the last video that I had recorded of reading the Leo Tolstoy book was a pretty well received video, and I got some feedback that people would like some more of this. Do you like this? Do you like it when I share children's books with you and stories? That I would share another story that I enjoyed and talk about the spiritual implications of it. I can't read this one because I don't think this is in the within the bounds of the copyright, but I can tell you about it. So the story that I read with my kids today was Anno's Magic Seeds. By the way, Anno does lots and lots of great books that teach living math concepts to kids. It's in the context of story, and it's just naturally engaging where it will have them wanting to do math. So if you want to inspire your kids with math, this is a fun one. Also, the Circumference series is pretty cool. There's a lot of fun math books to look into. The Life of Fred series. Anyways, I'm like going off on a tangent here because the point wasn't to talk about math books for kids. But if you wanted to know that, now you do. But I like this story, Anno's Magic Seeds, because I thought it taught a really important story about the concept or principle of sacrifice and how sacrifice brings forth the blessings of heaven. So in this story, there is a wizard who finds this man, Jack, and he tells him that he has a gift for him, and he gives him 2 magical seeds. And the instruction that the wizard gives him is that if he bakes one of the seeds and eats it, he will not be hungry for an entire year. It will take care of all of his food needs for a year. And if he plants the other seed, then it will then grow 2 seeds. And so Jack's very excited, and Jack does exactly what this wizard tells him to do. Jack takes 1 seed, bakes it, eats it, and then he plants the other seed, and he's so careful with it and makes sure to do a very good job taking care of it so that the next year he has 2 seeds. So Jack does this for many, many years. He bakes 1 seed so his needs are taken care of, and then he takes another seed and plants it so he can get 2 more seeds. Well, after many years of doing this same thing over and over and over again, Jack realizes that he actually would like to have more seeds. He would like to experience more growth and not the stagnation any longer. So he makes a decision that he's going to figure out how to take care of his food situation for the year in some other way, but that he is going to forego baking a seed and plant both of the seeds from his harvest that year. And so Jack plants the seeds, and they start multiplying, of course, and they have all of these experiences with his planting of seeds. He eventually gets married to someone who also starts being able to be provided for by these seeds, and they have a baby together. I love that this story is like subtly positive towards humanity in that the child is kind of related to the seeds. I don't know, there's a lot of spiritual and like just subtle messaging here. I'm also reading a really great book right now. Well, it's a Hebrew interpretation of the Bible. It's by Robert Alter. And to hear him talk about like seed in the Bible is often referred to as semen, actually. And so like there's a literal translation thing there. Anyway, so I saw that a little bit here too, which was interesting. But the point is, this principle of sacrifice is something that's been on my mind. It's beautifully illustrated here for children so that they can be associated, just like thinking about this idea. And I think this is a conversation we can all have, no matter what our religious persuasion is. Like, what is it that I can sacrifice in order to bring forth more? And it won't just bless me, but it'll bless other people too. And this, of course, is a concept that Jesus taught us, right? If he who shall lose himself will find himself, whatever we're willing to sacrifice for Christ will come back and bless us. Well, I've been listening to some interviews and presentations of Todd McLauchlin. If you haven't heard of him, I invite you to watch some of his stuff. He has some wonderful presentations, one on the Oath and Covenant of the Priesthood and another one on Consecration. This is specifically, for an LDS audience, but I really enjoy the way that he talks about how keys are basically, access to God's power or blessings. And if we want to obtain any blessing, or if we want some information or something to be unveiled for us, then we need to be willing to make the sacrifice that God requires in order for that to be able to happen. In the case of Jack's magic seed, he needed to sacrifice the comfortable, predictable situation he had with eating his food, having his food needs taken care of for a year. That's what he had to sacrifice. But there might be other things that you need to sacrifice if you want the blessings that might be associated with that sacrifice. And I think that really that's a true principle, like for everybody, right? We are able to receive, what is that scripture in the Doctrine and Covenants? Like, all blessings are predicated on our obedience to the principles, that govern that blessing. And so how do we help ourselves to be more in alignment with the sacrifices that we need to make in order to receive all the things that God would bless us with? I think that the idea of like, oh, if I do this thing, then I get blessed it's not necessarily just an equation, right? Like, as we see in the magic seed story, like Jack is blessed with more, even it's like his blessings are multiplied even beyond what he did, and it was from like one sacrifice he made a long time ago, and his blessings just keep multiplying. Even when eventually later in the story there's like a flood that wipes out a bunch of stuff, he's still able to save 10 seeds and start again with like a lot more than he ever had before. But and so it's not like, oh, you do this thing and you get this out of it. It's not a vending machine. Like, God's blessings for us are multiplied greater than we can possibly imagine. And there's a real tenderness and a gratitude and an incredibly amazing gift aspect, gifted aspect to what God does for us. But I think the idea is that once we understand this principle of sacrifice and we start to apply it in our lives, and we start to say, oh, this is really important to me. I would love to see this blessing come forth in my life. And we're willing to make the sacrifices necessary to bring that to fruition, that it will change the game for us enough and help open our eyes to the fact that, yeah, it's willing to sacrifice anything and everything that God asks us to sacrifice in order to receive the blessing or the knowledge of whatever it is that we want to know. I think it's important to remember the story of Cain and Abel and why Cain's offering was wicked and why Abel's offering was righteous. Abel gave exactly the sacrifice that God asked him to give, whereas Cain came up with his own version. He didn't do what God asked him to do. And so he was upset, right, when his sacrifice was not accepted, but Abel's was. So when we're choosing sacrifices to make in order to bring forth the blessings of heaven, it's really important to consult with God and to find out what it is that God actually wants you to do. Don't just make up your own stuff. But when God tells you what to do, you do exactly what God tells you to do, and it will be more than worth it, right? As this sweet story illustrated. Anyways, I hope that you'll check this out with your kids if this is of interest to you, and that you'll think about this principle of sacrifice and how you can make proper use of your ability to do good things as a child of God. And this is especially true if you have made covenants with God and you have devoted your life to God. If you're more intentional about looking for what you can actually do to make a sacrifice and talk to God about that, and you do it, I just think that is going to be massive in the coming days, and it's always important now. One of my biggest interests is preparing the earth for Zion, right, for the second coming. And I think if we understood what we could sacrifice now, and we were just cognizant of this, and we were willing to give more, but in a thoughtful way, in an intentional way, understanding like what's involved, and really counseling with God about that, not only would we bless ourselves, but like in this story, right, Jack is able to bless his wife and his child, and eventually other people in the village too, because he starts to sell the seeds, and to so he's like feeding other people too. How can we bless other people with sacrifices that we are willing to make? The blessings that will come back to us will be bigger than we even deserve or could possibly imagine. I think that that's partially what God means when God says that we can't even imagine the things that he has in store for us, right? For those that love God, we can't even imagine how good it will be, but we can get a taste of it by starting now. So I invite you to think about that. What is a sacrifice that you can make? If you enjoyed my take on this book, if you're curious more about some of my ideas about the education of children, or how to include the gospel in the way that you educate your children, I do have a course that I recorded with my friends Nancy and Mikkel. They're both homeschooling mothers like myself. And we talk about the principles of a Zion education for children. So if you're curious about that, I invite you to check that out in the comment box below. And if you enjoyed the content that I just shared with you today, I invite you to like and subscribe to this channel, because there's going to be more coming. So have a wonderful day. Bye.